Hey everybody, welcome to our Making the Grade video featuring the roller coasters of Knoebels Amusement Park in Ellisburg, Pennsylvania. While most amusement park channels want to rank the coasters, we take a slightly different approach. Each coaster gets a grade for layout, condition, theming, ride experience, and most important, the fun factor. Before we kick off this video, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel so you don't miss a thing. We will be visiting 50 amusement parks in 2023, and we drop videos every day. So even though it's just a small click for you, it means a lot to us. Before we bring out the report card, let's bring in the intro. Okay, now let's check out that report card. As you can see from this blank one, each category gets a score with a final grade corresponding with how excited we are to ride each coaster each visit. An A grade means we must ride it every visit, no matter how long the line is. Heck, sometimes you might even marathon it. The grade of a B is we gotta ride it. And if the line is long, we will keep on checking the wait times all day long because that ride is that good. If the coaster gets a C, we will try to ride it, but if we end up missing it, we're still going to call the day a success. Coasters that get a D rating would only be considered if there's no line. Seriously, it really has to be a walk-on. And the grade of an F is truly a one and done. Get the coaster credit, cross it off the list, and then we move on. Alright, now let's talk about Knoebels. This park is simply a treasure, and in the video above we talk about all the things you must do if you only have one day at the park. Where to eat, what to see, and of course, what to ride. Now make sure you check out that video after you finish this one, of course. While there we talk about everything the park has to offer, this video focuses on the coasters. Knoebels has 6 active coasters, and we enjoyed them all in 2022. So let's go through each coaster in no particular order and figure out which coaster makes the grade. Let's kick it off with a coaster that really does not get enough love, and that is Twister. The layout scores a 7 out of 10, with the blueprint coming from the Mr. Twister coaster at Elwitz Gardens. That coaster was very old, and there was no way that they were going to be able to transport it to Knoebels, kind of like what they did with the Phoenix. So Knoebels just bought the blueprint. Interesting fact, the space they had reserved for the coaster was actually smaller than what they needed. So they created a split lift hill to condense the footprint to make the ride fit. The condition of this ride is 9 out of 10, with Knoebels retracking sections almost every year. The theming is average with a great big sign in the front, but that's really about it. For us, average is a 5, so of course, this gets a 5 out of 10 in our grades. The ride experience is an 8 out of 10, and if you like laterals, this is the ride for you. Especially the section of helixes you see from the station, this truly is a twister. Finally, the fun factor is above average for this coaster, being just an enjoyable ride. And this is coming from someone who for years had to ride it while on Dramamine. Overall, this coaster is a solid B. It is rare that we don't ride this every time we visit, and we always put it on the top of our list. Next, let's discuss the kiddie coaster at Knoebels, Cosmo's Curves. This coaster is named for the main mascot at Knoebels, Cosmo, and he is featured throughout the park. This ride is also located where one of the original coasters, High Speed Thrill Coaster, once stood. To see where all these rides are, please check out our Knoebels full park walkthrough in the link above. When it comes to grading this kiddie coaster, the numbers really don't add up to a great experience. The layout is pretty basic, and it is basically a standard E and F miler family coaster. It gets a 5 out of 5 mainly because of how it interacts with the motorboat attraction below. The condition is average also with a 5 out of 5, but the theming is a little bit lower with a 4 out of 10 because it's basically just a sign. The ride experience gets worse grade with a 3 out of 10 because it really jolts you back and forth. This might be fun for a 6-year-old, but at my age, I'm not into the bruises as much. The fun factor is average when you compare it to other kiddie coasters, but overall this coaster gets a D final grade. If there is an opportunity to ride it with a station wait, I will consider it, but with all the kids that go to Knoebels, That's actually pretty rare. Now, we can't talk about Knoebels without discussing their award-winning wooden coaster, Phoenix. But before we do, if you're still watching this, that means that you kind of like our content. So this is another perfect time to remind you to click the like and the subscribe button. Every Sunday we drop an original content video like this, and you don't want to miss it. Okay, Phoenix, or Rocket as it was originally known as in Texas, came to Knoebels piece by piece in 1985. There was no blueprint, so each piece of wood had to be marked and rebuilt when it arrived. A darling of the Golden Ticket Awards, this coaster is always in the top 5 wooden coasters and recently has won the award the past 4 years. So what did we think of it? This classic wooden coaster has one of the best layouts if you are looking for airtime. Yes, the buzz bar restraints help, but this layout gets a 9 out of 10 for us either way. Knoebels is known for keeping their rides in mint condition, and the Phoenix is a prime example of this. 10 out of 10. Yes, the theming is standard for Knoebels, a sign by the entrance, but it does get a 7 out of 10 because they have a train in the front where you can get your picture taken, and all the Golden Ticket Award signs really make that theme shine. The ride experience matches the fun factor with a 10 out of 10 for both. Yep, Phoenix gets an overall A grade if you didn't guess, and it is a top 20 roller coaster in her own personal rankings. You simply can't go to Knoebels without a ride or 2 or 3 on Phoenix. We are now halfway done, and this next coaster has a really unique history. Black Diamond started its life down at the shore, originally known as Golden Nugget on Hunts Pier and later Dinosaur Beach in Wildwood, New Jersey. The Knoebels saved this classic PTC dark ride from the abyss. Is it a dark ride? Is it an indoor coaster? That debate always rages, but with it being identified as a coaster in RCDB, the roller coaster database, we count it as a coaster credit. So how is it? This is a true dark ride experience with a layout going back and forth inside a building and always keeping you on your toes. It gets a 7 out of 10. The condition is great considering it was right along the beach and was surrounded by salt air for years. 8 out of 10. The theming is perfect. Originally themed to buried treasure and pirates, now the gold is coal and the pirates are now miners. This theme fits perfectly in the back of the park right next to the Anthracite Museum, an 8 out of 10. Again, the ride experience and the fun factor are even at a 7 out of 10, and the overall score for Black Diamond is a C. We try to ride it, but if the line is large, we go and grab a Dole Whip instead. Our next coaster is one of a kind, and that is a fact that the Knoebels are very proud of. Flying Turns is the only wooden toboggan-style roller coaster in the world, and it was built by the Knoebels themselves. Sitting where the classic Whirlwind roller coaster once did, this ride is truly trackless with the trains flying like a bobsled through the layout. So how does this one score? While Flying Turns is one of a kind, there are some issues. However, the layout isn't one of them. 2 lift hills and some great overbanked turns. This layout is a 7 out of 10. Also, the condition of the ride is perfection, with a score of 8 out of 10. Seriously, the Knoebels really know how to give their rides a lot of love. The theming is standard for Knoebels, with a sign up front and a little sign in the back that says they said it couldn't be built right along the road. And that gives it a 6 out of 10. The ride experience is where this ride takes one on the chin. Yes, the ride itself is really good. Ride experience, however, also factors in getting on the ride, and this is where Flying Turns fails. When you get into the station, you actually have to be weighed. Don't worry, the number isn't public, but the attendants have to know this because for the ride to operate properly, the weight of the riders has to be distributed perfectly. While I won't say how this is done, after a couple of trains you kind of figure it out. This does take some time and leads to some really slow dispatches. There have been times when I see a short line only to be waiting 45 minutes to get on this ride because of this factor. Because of that, the ride experience score is a 3 out of 10. Once you get on the ride, it is fun, and it gets 7 out of 10 on the fun factor scale. Even though this coaster has some solid numbers, it does get a D grade because we will only ride this if there is no line. There's too many other great attractions to wait for us to waste time in this line. Our final coaster is actually their only large-scale steel coaster in the park, and it is actually the first thing you see when you pull into the parking area. That is Impulse. This Zaire roller coaster is one of a kind for that company and features a vertical lift and drop, a cobra roll, an inline twist, and a loop. While this ride is short, at under 2,000 feet of track, it does pack a punch. This layout is very similar to the Gerstlauer Infinity coasters, and some consider it Fahrenheit's little brother. With all the twists and turns, this layout gets a 7 out of 10. The condition and theming both get a 6 out of 10 because there are some issues with the trains over the years, and it's just another sign in the front of the building. The ride experience for this ride is simply great, with an easy load and unload, but it only gets an 8 out of 10 because you do have to wait on the brake run when they have two trains because the ride time is so short. Finally, the fun factor is a solid 7 out of 10, and that gives Impulse a final grade of a C. We try to ride this beautiful coaster every time we can, but if we can't, we're always ready to get some more Dole Whip. So in conclusion, Knoebels has 6 coasters, with the final grade of both Cosmos Curves and Flying Turns being an overall grade of a D, with us only riding it if there's no line. Black Diamond and Impulse have our love, but if we don't get around to it, we're okay with getting more Dole Whip. Do you see a trend here? And they both have grades of a C. And while both Twister and Phoenix are must rides every time, only Phoenix keeps us in line again and again and again. So thank you for checking out this video and let us know if you agree with our grades. Do you feel that Phoenix is overrated? Does Flying Turns deserve more respect than we gave it? Heck, is Black Diamond even a coaster? Let us know, and don't forget to check out this other Knoebels video. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to see you in the queue.